Hey friends, happy Tuesday, the 27th of September. It's nice to be with you. I'm Father Bill Hill, priest at Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Rock Springs, Wyoming. Thank you for your patience with me last week. I didn't have any videos for you, but hopefully you still prayed with the readings. I didn't get videos shot before heading to Sheridan on continuing education, so I meant to post a note every day telling you that I didn't, and then I got sick last week, nasty cold, so I just kind of recuperated, but hopefully you were able to survive, right? I will give you a video reflection today on the daily readings. The readings are linked in the show notes in the sidebar. And read the readings prayerfully. Spend some time with God before you move on to other things, right? That silence is the best thing you can do. We're working on Job's book right now as well as Luke's gospel. Job. We're only hitting the highlights, and we're going to miss a day because of the Feast of the Archangels on Thursday. But Job is one of those books that's really difficult for the scholars to come to consensus on. They don't know when it was written. They don't necessarily know even a group of people or, a likely suspect who might have wrote it. Definitely intended as a wisdom sort of a book, not as a historical, literal description of a person, but instead an extended reflection upon providence, suffering, our experience of evil in the world. If you didn't read the readings yesterday, I would recommend that you go back and read the readings from yesterday, especially that first reading from Job, because it does set it up. Job has every good thing. And Satan, who's depicted here at the beginning of Job more as like a member of the court of God, as opposed to an antagonist of God or a defeated enemy of God, Satan says, well, the only reason that Job likes you, God, is because you've filled him with blessings. And so they put Job to the test. And we definitely do not take our doctrine of God from the beginning of the book of Job. But so Job experiences all sorts of evil. He is materially blessed, and as we read yesterday, he loses his herds, he loses his camels, and then his children are all of them killed in a horrible fashion. And so he's left with nothing but his own life. And so now today, in the book of Job, this selection, we have Job letting go of his sadness, of his suffering, of his experience of loss, and saying, I had everything and now it's taken away. It would have been better if I never would have been brought into this world. Lamentation is something that we don't do well. Lamentation is a genre that most Christians are not terribly familiar with. We think that when we talk to God, we only give the happy stuff, right? And so when our heart is broken or when we're angry or hurt or whatever, lots of us don't have a framework for how to be in relationship with God in those hard things. I invite you, pray this passage from Job, and maybe if everything's going well, to just sit in community and solidarity with those whose lives are falling apart around them. And, if there have been those times when it felt like life was meaningless and pointless and there was no reason to go on, maybe you would go into some of that pain and suffering with this passage from Job and invite God into the midst of that experience that you had. And we don't want to wallow in it, certainly, but we definitely want to be there and to know communion with God, even in the hard times. The psalm response, I just encourage you, if you want to pray with that, that's good, a little bit of petition, right? Let my prayer come before you today, O Lord. And just use the psalm as a way of kind of turning from that lowly place, that place of suffering, and instead raising what you need today. Okay. Luke. Jesus has resolutely set his destination as Jerusalem. And so, of course, the Samaritans believed that worship was properly done at their place, not in Jerusalem, so oftentimes they did not extend hospitality to pilgrims on their way to Jerusalem. So that sets the scene for this. But also Jerusalem is the place of suffering and death for Jesus especially. So it's not just that he's like, oh, hey, let's go on a pleasure cruise to Jerusalem. Like he knows that he is going to passion, to suffering, and to death. What is it that is drawing our attention today? What's our focus? What's our goal? What's the Lord putting on our heart that we need to resolutely set our face towards and not lose sight of? And then the second, maybe we want to pray with James and John. These are two of the close students, close friends of Jesus who get it marvelously wrong today. And sometimes we can get hung up on being right, perfect, good, correct, whatever. Part of being disciples, part of being students is making mistakes, getting it wrong, not knowing what we need to do. Are there ways that maybe we have made a mess of it that we need to acknowledge, like James and John, to just, yep, I could do that different, I could do that better. Time for a course change. Maybe we sit with these close friends of Jesus, these sons of thunder, James and John, and we recognize that maybe there's a way for us to work with God towards a different path. All right, friends, those are a few ideas for things to pray with. You go ahead and read those readings prayerfully, and then turn off the screen before you move on to other things. Happy Tuesday, friends.